Welcome to The Explainer. We're going to take what looks like your average, run-of-the-mill weekend golf recap and turn into a masterclass on course management and, honestly, more importantly, self-management. We're breaking down a recent round at Santapogue Creek on Long Island to uncover some pretty universal lessons because, as you'll see, the physical reality of our environment and, frankly, our own biology can completely dictate our performance if we aren't paying attention.
Take a look at this quote. Once you hit a certain age, you just can't handle extreme temps anymore. This right here, this is the central conflict of what we're looking at today. We're not talking about a flawed swing or using the wrong clubs. We're looking at what actually happens when the relentless heat of a summer day collides with the reality of getting older. It's a stark reminder that your health has to come first, because pushing through extreme weather, it'll absolutely derail your focus and, yeah, wreck your score.
All right, Section 1. Teeing off at Santapogue.
Santapogue Creek projects this incredible, almost deceptive peacefulness. The day kicked off with a nice, relaxed 8:20 a.m. Monday tee time. It's about a 45 to 50-minute drive heading quite far north up near the water from Flushing, Queens. And when our golfer pulled into the lot, the temperature was a very comfortable, yet very deceptive 68 degrees. I mean, it felt like the absolute perfect setup for a breezy morning on a gorgeous course.
Now this is a link-style layout, actually very similar to its sister course over at Timber Point. Both are part of Suffolk County's really picturesque public course system. So arriving about a half hour early allowed for a proper, focused warm-up on the putting green, and let me tell you, that routine absolutely paid off. Paired up at a foursome with a father-son duo and another guy in his 50s, our golfer started incredibly strong, carding 5 straight pars right out of the gate. But, well, a good start definitely doesn't guarantee a good finish.
Moving on to Section 2. The yardage reality check.
Here's where the first major strategic error of the day happens, and it was driven purely by ego. Looking at the scorecard, the blue tees sitting at 6,200 yards just felt a little too easy. So the fateful decision was made to jump all the way back to the black tees, stretching the course out to 6,600 yards. And because our golfer called it first, the rest of the foursome naturally followed his lead. Boom! That instantly adds this heavy layer of pressure to the round. When you're the one dictating the difficulty for the whole group, you kind of feel obligated to perform.
6,500. Why that number? Because 6,500 yards is essentially the critical cutoff point for amateur players. The source really drives this home. If your swing and club control aren't completely dialed in, that extra distance is going to absolutely wreck your game. Not everyone can handle it. In fact, the pressure of those extra yards became obvious super quickly when the other 50-year-old in the group wisely decided, you know what, I'm dropping back down to the blues after just 5 holes. Listen, knowing your limits is a literal superpower out there.
Which brings us to Section 3, navigating hazards and bunkers.
Out on this course, there is a stark, unforgiving contrast. You've got manageable, if a bit narrow, fairways, but they are bordered by the defining hazard of Santapogue: thick, nasty brush. Unlike courses lined with deep forests, this place uses dense vegetation as its boundary, and the rule of thumb here is brutally simple. If your ball goes into that brush, it is automatic out of bounds. Seriously, it's not even worth looking for. You just have to take your penalty, swallow your pride, and move on.
But hey, hazards also create opportunities for absolute brilliance. The bunkers here are small and shallow, which means you really have to dig in to pop the ball out. On one particular hole, our golfer hit a shot that popped out of the sand but landed dead in the rough, right in front of the bunker. Talk about an impossible stance. The only option left was this incredible, one-handed, backward recovery shot, literally using only the right hand to punch the ball back toward the pin. The rest of the group was stunned. They called it a highlight reel miracle shot, without a doubt the shot of the day.
While the bunkers were somewhat manageable, the water hazards were a whole different story. Now, the course doesn't have an overwhelming amount of water, but what is there adds immense visual pressure. This intimidation, combined with a slowly creeping mental fatigue, resulted in a very rare mistake: hitting the ball fat and dunking it straight into the drink. It was actually the first water ball this player had hit in ages, a blaring alarm bell that focus was really starting to slip.
Let's dig into that fatigue in Section 4, the mental toll of heat.
Watch how this builds into a complete breakdown. At 8:20 a.m., things are great, right? 5 straight pars. But right around 9:30 a.m. at hole 6, the sun comes out fully and the heat hits. I mean, brutally hits. By the back 9 around 11 a.m., a massive mental fade begins. Sweat is just relentlessly dripping into the golfer's eyes, making things super uncomfortable.
The crazy part? It wasn't a physical swing issue. It was a total inability to concentrate or just calm the mind. Rush shots and misdirections completely ruled the back nine, leading to total exhaustion by 12:30.
So, what was the root cause of this exhaustion? Well, it all comes down to the fateful decision of walking versus riding. Our golfer made the crucial mistake of being the only person in the foursome to actually walk the course. Everyone else took a cart. And sure, walking is fantastic exercise, but doing it in extreme summer heat, especially past the age of 50, it wears you down incredibly fast. The source emphasizes that taking a cart would have kept his head so much clearer. You just can't gut it out like the old days. You absolutely have to respect the weather.
Section 5. Greens and Course Etiquette.
Chatting with the local group out there revealed something pretty interesting. Santapogue Creek actually brought in a new professional management team earlier in the year, and honestly, it really shows. The consensus among the players is that course conditions are noticeably better this season. It's a great reminder of just how heavily the quality of public golf in the U.S. relies on the specific management companies running the grounds day to day.
Let's break down the putting experience for a second. These greens are quite small, averaging only about 20 yards across, which makes hitting them in regulation genuinely tough. Less than half the group managed it. However, the slopes are super manageable, maybe knee-high at most, and the ball rolls incredibly true. Because of that good warm-up we talked about, our golfer only three-putted 3 times. But there was one major frustration: course etiquette. Other players were just abandoning their ball marks, leaving our group to use their repair tools to fix the greens themselves. Not cool.
All right, bringing it all together in Section 6, the final scorecard. 87, that is the final score. After starting with 5 straight pars, finishing with an 87, basically bogeying almost everything from hole 6 onward, well, it felt pretty embarrassing to our golfer, especially considering the course isn't overly difficult. But here's the takeaway. The score wasn't due to poor ball striking. It was a direct result of that heat-induced mental shutdown on the back nine. Pushing through the heat while walking just caused the brain to shut off, proving that mental fatigue is just as destructive as a flawed swing. Despite the grueling back nine, the value of the course is absolutely undeniable. Santapogue Creek is under an hour's drive from NYC, making it highly accessible for city golfers. At a walking rate of around $60, it sits comfortably alongside other really solid Suffolk County options like Timber Point, West Sayville, and Indian Island. And the pace of play was also pretty decent, finishing the whole thing in 4 hours and 10 minutes, even with a slightly slow group ahead of them.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Are you playing the course, or is the weather playing you? As the source wisely concluded, pushing through extreme heat when you're older is just asking for your blood pressure to spike. It's simply not worth it. So the next time you tee off, consider your self-management. Check your ego at the first tee, pick the right yardage, take a cart if it's scorching out, and above all, know your physical limits. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.